It's wonderful. It really is to see you because you've got a very compact, very interesting career. And in the week that's in it, and maybe when this recording goes out, it won't be the week that's in it. There's a lot of people very stressed around leaving certs and A levels and C levels. So, not that we want to go back too far, but you weren't born director of asset management,
No,
right?
no.
You got there. So, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, no worries. So, working with Digital Realty for a long time now, almost 15 years at this stage. I went off to Australia after studying in Ireland for a couple of years, came back and landed a job with our good friend Bernard Gagan in Digital Realty. And look, my roles within Digital Realty have evolved over the last couple of years. I've held a couple of different jobs really, and I've been in asset management for the last 8 years. So got promoted this year to director. And that means that I work within what we call the portfolio management group. And I'm responsible for a number of assets across Ireland and continental Europe as well. And, with delivering strategic goals for each of those assets.
So when you go back to your formative years and you're doing your education and stuff, did you even know what an asset was? Never mind a data center 50 years ago. Wow. So
No.
what you've arrived at this position, but what made you in the interim years arrive at the opportunity to be in this industry?
Well, when I was working in Australia, I got a job within a property group. Now, not data center focused at all, just commercial property, and I enjoyed that thoroughly. So when I moved back to Dublin, then the job came up with Digital Realty, and it was within the real estate industry to a some degree. Obviously more of a technical background and perspective, which I didn't have at the time. So I interviewed for the job, got offered it, took it, not really, as you say, knowing anything about data centers at all. But luckily, great colleagues, great time working at Digital, picked up a lot of information and on the job training and all of that as it went across the years and the various different roles. So it's just evolved over time.
Interesting. I have to pick my words very carefully now, but 15 years in an industry that probably as a recognized sector is only 15 years, maybe 20, that makes you a veteran.
Yeah. Now you're making me feel old, Garry.
I'm so glad that we're on screen and I'm not in the same room because I might be whacked with something. But isn't it the important note to make, however, is because a lot of people listening to this wouldn't necessarily know of the data digital infrastructure space. And if they do, it would have been probably from some media that has just been announced. And they go, oh, what's that? But it's 15 plus years old. So have you
Yeah.
seen much change in that 15 plus years?
Yeah, massively. And even within the company itself, I mean, we've evolved hugely over time through growth, acquisitions, just, evolving technologies, the way that we look at business, the type of business that we go after, as a whole, I suppose Digital Realty going back in the day was more of a scale wholesale provider. And that's changed, it's more obviously going after full spectrum customer base from enterprise, your single rack kind of customer, right up to your multi megawatt and all the interconnection that goes on in between those as well. So
And
huge, huge changes.
it's extraordinary when you think that the iPhone was only invented 15 years ago. So
Which is very interesting though, isn't it?
two great things happened that year. You came into the industry and the iPhone. I'm not sure which one at the moment, but listen, that's only history will tell. And what's a typical day for, and you'll have to bear with us that are watching, an asset manager,
Yeah.
period. You might want to just explain
What is that?
what it
Yeah.
is. But what's a typical day for an asset manager?
Well, look, I would say there's no typical day. It depends. It depends hugely on what you're doing, what's at the top of the to-do list, whether it be reporting or you've got a business case to submit. I suppose if I take a step back. So I look at PMG, which is what we call our portfolio management group. That's the group that asset managers sit in. I look at us as like a jack of all trades because we work across such a large number of different groups within the company, whether it be the sales team, our design and construction, acquisitions, legal, you name it, we're heavily involved. We work from putting business cases together to in front of our investment committee to actually negotiating leases with customers and getting terms approved and all of that kind of thing, right down to getting legal paperwork signed. There's obviously lots of reporting that goes on with that. So the day in itself is never typical. And if you're working from home, that's one thing. You might be traveling into the office, you might be traveling abroad. So there's a huge amount of variety in a typical day.
And I guess there's a hint in the name, but the word data center in itself is two words squeezed together. But however, a lot of people concentrate on the center aspect, the bit that holds the racks. And would you say then when you talk to people or you're encouraging people to join, they think it's quite technical and you need to be an engineer, but you're not. You're
No.
far from being an engineer.
Yeah. So I suppose it depends on whatever role the person is going towards within digital realty. Like obviously you've got your engineers and your very technical people who are all very good at their job. But of course, then you've got like asset managers who have more of like a strategic view. You've got to have your eyes open and know what's going on in the market, what the challenges are, what's best to recommend for the business, from making the most of your assets, whether it be further development or holding back or power issues or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So from that regard, it's not a complete technical job. So, of course you need to understand the concepts of how it works, but I would just say it just depends on the role, right?
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to know all the time how a car is made to be able to be a good driver. Somebody explained that to me once, and it's the same for
Yep.
business. Sometimes it helps. I certainly find that when I'm getting into an aeroplane, I prefer to be just a dumb passenger because I don't really want to know how
Yeah.
to sail.
Maybe you're better off.
Maybe you're better off. So, what's the great parts, the good parts, and what's the not so good parts for you?
Um, the great parts, I guess, is just the autonomy that you have to just go ahead and get your work done. Um, the variety in the day, I do have to say, I really love that. As we said already, no 2 days are the same, so that's good. It keeps things fresh. I suppose the biggest challenges then have been being with the company so long. It's evolved hugely and continues to evolve to this day. And from a professional perspective, you have to be willing and open to go with the changes and, embrace it, take on new teams, new technologies, whatever it may be, and just go with the flow.
And of course, you have been with digital through quite a few mergers, acquisitions,
Integrations, yeah.
integrations. But one of the things that I always found, and I know you a little while, is that your intentions are always to be firm but fair. And isn't that sort of what, as a career, you can build up skills, you can build up sort of accolades and all the rest, but there's certain part of your behavior that should always remain. And I guess whether you're an asset manager or whether you're a head engineer or whatever, culture is what keeps people in an organization. And
Yeah,
15 years is a long old stint nearly in any industry, but
it's a good
particularly
stretch.
it is, but not in the negative, because you've obviously liked the culture of
Yeah.
the organization, even though that organization has gone through topsy turvy mergers. Is there anything unique about cultures that you've experienced, ones that you like, ones that you don't? Because a lot of people leave because of bad culture, bad people.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
look,
absolutely.
what's your sort of read on that in terms of
So
culture?
true. I mean, the company fosters a very good culture, um, teamwork, collaboration. Now, obviously, like everybody else, there's hiccups and there's bumps along the road and all of that kind of thing. But I think just having a good attitude, coming from the right place, trying to do your best by your colleagues and having that reciprocated as well, it gets you over all the hard times and the difficult days and, the days where you think you're throwing in the towel or whatever it may be. Um, and, we're looked after very well. I just think it's a great place to work.
And when you look then at the industry you're in, which is one that eventually people will realize that it's the digital oxygen of the current industrial age. That's really
Yeah.
the sense. But you've gone from in that 15 years where it was more businesses to businesses using your services. Now it's businesses to end users. You're doing loads of end users, and it's 360 degrees around the world.
Yeah.
How is that sort of, are you getting more visibility, less visibility of that world that's changing so that you sort of can help your colleagues in Africa or are we all?
Yeah.
Oh,
I suppose the key point there is helping your colleagues. And I see that quite clearly when we acquire businesses. And then we try to integrate the new colleagues into the processes and the systems. And sometimes we're running dual systems for a while until we can get everything onto the one platform. And it's a lot for people to, if they've come from maybe always a smaller firm, but into this larger company, it can be quite daunting as to understand who does what and why we do things in a certain way. So I've had experience with helping new colleagues in some of the newer regions that we've brought on. And that's quite satisfying as well to see them become a bit more relaxed and confident and understanding, and to know that you're there to help as well.
do you know we've done now nearly 12 or 13 these sessions and for the talent month September, and the one word that just nearly comes out in every is collaboration. Collaboration with suppliers, collaboration with colleagues, the whole thing. And I wonder, is its time coming? Because, previous decades and previous thing was, you gotta kill the opposition and you gotta be number one and the whole lot. And look where it's landed up. And we won't go into that particular argument.
Yeah.
But, you just wonder, is the time now to collaborate, find purpose and common interest with communities, your competitors. Everybody has a secret sauce.
Yeah. Well, I just think relationships are very important, you know.
Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, you've seen a lot of relationships in and from Ireland, and that must be something that now you look at and you see so many Paddies, Irish, all over the place in this digital infrastructure space.
Everywhere.
And that's where relationships matter, I
Yeah,
guess, more than ever.
completely. Yeah. And it's a small data center community too, though, isn't it? Even people that you've worked with over the past number of years mightn't be here anymore. You're still bumping into them. They're still in the same circles. So it's nice.
Your mother and father, I'm sure, often told you the same as I was told. Be nice to people on the way up. You're going to need them on the way down, but you're certainly not on the way down. It's been fast and we've covered an awful lot in a very short period of time. You've a great story, Tanya. I'm just so glad that nice people can win also. And I'm doing that in a sassy way. I genuinely believe for a lot of people who are early career, there was a sense that you have to eat your dogs and all this confrontation. You're not that animal. You don't ever, I've never experienced you being that. You're firm but fair. And I think it's a lovely attribute to show next leaders or next workers that you can genuinely succeed in large multinational corporations and not have to become that sort of dog eat dog type person. So well done on maintaining
That's
that.
a lovely way to be described. So thank you.
Yeah, and it's been a lovely few minutes. And thank you so much for helping us to send a message out for Talent Month. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Garry.